All right, guys and ladies, what we are going to do today is kind of a recycling project for the most part. And you can see mine is still drying, but we're going to make this little reindeer from cardboard tubes. And so I thought I would take a minute and show you guys how I put this little guy together. He's even got a little tail, and he does stand up, but I knew for video purposes you'll need to see him kind of laying down. So there we go. I'm going to put him over here to the side, let him finish drying, and talk about what you will need for this project. So you will need a cardboard tube, and this is one that I got from the school. But, if you had a paper towel tube or a toilet paper tube or a wrapping paper tube that you can cut down, that would be great. Let's see, something else that you might need is a pair of scissors. You don't have to have a red pom-pom. We'll talk about other ways to make like a little pom-pom. But some clothespins or paper clips or like those little black binder clips, anything that you can use to clamp with. And then I have just a little dish of some really thick glue. If you had an Elmer's glue, like a bottle glue, you could use that and just go ahead and pour some out in the dish and let it kind of be getting kind of dry and sort of tacky, just so that the gluing process goes a little quicker. Okay, so first thing I would do to make this little reindeer is, if your cardboard has little tabs at the bottom like mine does, I would go ahead and just snip those little guys off. But keep them, because we may end up needing some extra cardboard. I'm going to move my glue out of the way. But so you might need some little extra cardboard pieces for whatever purpose. But so I'm just going to trim these little guys off. There we go. And then I'm going to set these to the side. And then we need to flatten this tube once you get it there. So I'm just going to press down. And this is some pretty thick cardboard. Yours might not be as thick as mine is, but mine is pretty thick. So I'm having to kind of push with both hands. You may not have to do that for yours. Now, across the top, we need to cut off a couple of rings that we're going to use. So the first ring I cut off is probably not going to be any thicker than my pointer finger is. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball that, and with it flattened, I'm just going to cut all the way across because I want it to stay a circle like that. Okay, so there's one, and then I need a second one, so I'm going to do the same thing and cut off a second ring like that. Now keep these parts, because you are going to use these for some parts for your little reindeer there. So I'm going to put those over there to the side. And then I've got this much left, and then I need to decide like how wide to make the head, because the next cut we're going to make is going to actually end up being the reindeer's head. So we don't want to cut all the way across for obvious reasons. We don't want to cut off the reindeer's head. That would just be weird. So we're going to cut over to about, I don't know, probably about that far over, but I'll show you. So if I lay my cardboard tube flat and I use a pencil, I'm going to go about a little wider than a finger here. I'm going to only cut to right about here. Okay, and I'll draw a line just so you guys can see. So if your cardboard tube is flat, I'm going to cut, but then I'm going to stop right there, because I need this little flap to keep the head attached. You see right there? That's how he's able to nod and everything, because I didn't cut that tube all the way off. So I'm going to keep it flat, and I'm just going to cut over to that mark that I decided on like that, and I'm going to stop right there. And then at this point, you could kind of pop this back open and give it a little test to make sure that it's going to bend forward for you. You can always go back and flatten this shut and then cut some more. I would rather you not cut over far enough than to cut too far and your head just be kind of dangling there. So yeah, let's not do that. So when I prop mine up, when I prop it back open like that, it will stay. And if it doesn't, I can come back in a minute and trim some more. So that is where the head is going to be. Then I need to decide like how long of legs do I want versus body. So, you know, reindeer are about 50-50, but I don't want it to look like he's really chunky with no legs. So if I were to divide this in half, it would be about there. I'm going to go up just a little bit. So I'm actually going to use my fingers, and I'm going to do about a 3-finger mark there, and I'm going to lay this down flat. Okay? So there's the head. I'm going to lay about 3 fingers, and I'm going to put right there where that little fold is happening. I'm just going to put a dot right there. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to make a mark. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to make a mark. So that gives me 1, 2, 3, you know, fairly equal marks across my tube. So the first cut is going to be up to that dot in the middle. So I'm just going to cut, and this is going to work out to be the reindeer's legs, okay? So I'm going to cut through both tubes, both parts there, see? Like that. And then I'm going to pop this back open, and then I can just do one cut at a time. So this will be the front, like that, right to there, and the back cut, same thing. So there's that. So if you look from this angle, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 legs. So it's kind of like that right now, but the legs are just too thick, okay? So what you want to do at this point is we're going to just trim a little bit off of each leg, so there's a gap between the legs. So when people look at this, they go, oh, okay, I get it, that's a reindeer. So he has 4 legs. So I'm just going to trim that on that side. And I'm also going to trim it on this side, kind of equal on both sides. Now, I know some of you are going to want to make these legs super skinny because you want like long, skinny reindeer legs for some reason. I get where you're coming from, but if you do that, your legs could end up so skinny that they can't support the weight of what's on top of it. So for now, I would leave them a little on the thicker side. You can always go back and like trim some more off, but for right now, I wouldn't, because you can't, you know, it's hard to put the cardboard back on once you cut it. It's easy to trim some more off, but you can't put it back on. So I'm just going to finish trimming these out right here, and that side. Right up to that mark. If you have to, you can just kind of pluck it out. And one more. Get over there. To there. And this side. So, there we go. I've got 4 reindeer legs. Okay. I have a reindeer head, and I'm going to kind of shape it. See, mine keeps flipping back up, so I am actually going to go in here, and I'm going to cut just a little bit more. Let's see. Get my scissors back in there. Nice and flat. I'm going to cut just a smidge more. I mean a tiny bit, because I don't want to cut the head off. So apparently it's going to be a little difficult. Of course it is, because I'm shooting a video. So I'm just going to go in here and snip that a little. I'm going to come on this side and snip that side a little bit too. All right, it looks like he's going to stay now. I'm going to give it a good pinch right here, in case you have thick cardboard like me. So there we go. Now it's kind of staying put. All right, so there it is cut. There's the body. All right. So I'm going to set him to the side for a minute. The next part, we're actually going to shape his ears. And I did forget about this. If you have some kind of a marker that you can use, that's going to be really helpful in getting these ears shaped up the way they need to be shaped up. So those two tubes that we cut, we're going to use one of those tubes now, okay? And I think I'm actually going to use this one because I'm going to trim a bunch off anyway. So where it's folded at the top and bottom, I'm just going to go ahead and cut those apart. So I have two equal pieces here, okay? Now, I'm not really fond of this like line across here. So I'm going to actually use the back side of this piece of cardboard. So I'm just going to kind of flex it backwards so that when people see this ear, it actually, you know, there's no like cardboard creases or whatever. So I'm just going to kind of work this cardboard a little bit so it's a little softer, more flexible. And then what I'm going to do is I am actually going to use this marker to help keep my reindeer ear shape. And I'm just wrapping it around the marker. And then I'm going to line up those two edges. I'm just going to kind of pinch it so I have an idea of when I put the glue on there, this is what's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to pinch it with a clothespin or a paper clip or a binder clip or whatever. So it's like that, so that the clamp, whatever you use, will hold that in place while the glue is drying, okay? So I'm going to pop this back off. I'm going to put just a little bit of glue right there. And you can use like a piece of scrap cardboard if you want to, like one of these little bits that you cut off from the legs or whatever. And I'm just going to spread not a thick but not a thin amount of glue on there like that. And I'm going to put it back around the marker. And I'm going to line up my two edges right there. That way when I put my clip on, it will hold in place. So, do that again here. There we go. Just like that. And because I flipped this one backwards, you know, the cardboard backwards, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to the other side, the other ear, because I want, well, maybe I'm not. See right there? Yeah, I don't like that, so I'm going to go back to the front. And I've got a little bit of a chunk mark right there, so I am actually going to trim that off because I just don't want that there. So here we go. All right. Actually, that doesn't look so bad now. No, but it's going to peel. I'm just going to, yeah, okay. I am going to go ahead and flex the cardboard anyway. Just so, you know, whatever I do to one, I do the other, and it's even and it matches. So, got that one, and I'm just going to give it a little fit test. And I really like this particular marker because it's the same thickness all the way down for the most part. And when I clamp it, it's going to, you know, the opening of the ear is going to be the same size. So this is what we're actually trying to do, if you can see inside those ears. And the marker is helping us with that. So you can get my, wished it was a paintbrush, and dip a little bit and spread a little bit like that. Yep, not too much, but not like really thin, just kind of like a good, decent amount. Oops. All right, so I'm going to wrap this back around. I'm going to line up those two top edges, and I'm going to clamp that in place. So at this point, I would look at the clock, either on your Chromebook or your device or the wall or your alarm clock or whatever, and I would figure out what 5 minutes from now is, because that's when you can release these little guys, depending on how much glue you put on. Now, if you put a huge slobbery mess of glue on there, you might want to wait 10 minutes or so. And if it pops back open, when you take the clamps off, you will want to re-glue those and then wait another 5 minutes. But for right now, they're just going to sit there while we work on the antlers. So I'm just going to set these two to the side, and I'm going to let those dry, and then we'll work on the antlers. So when I started trying to figure out how to show you how to do these antlers, I went and I did a Google search of reindeer and found like a side view of a reindeer, so I would kind of have an idea what the antler shapes were. And this is kind of what I came up with. Let's see here. Yes. Oh, here we go, even better. So they kind of curve a little bit, and I have to draw, I'm just drawing one antler, okay? I'm not going to draw two antlers, and I'm not cutting it apart or anything else. See, it's still a whole tube. But what I thought I would do is if I drew it once, then I would only have to cut it once, and both sides of my antlers would match. So they have like the main piece that runs the length of the antler, and then they have little smaller antlers coming off of it. So I thought I'm going to curve mine just a little bit, and I'm going to bring it right down to here, and I'm going to curve mine a little bit like that, and I need to make sure that you can see what I'm doing, so let me check my screen. Okay, yeah, you can. So there's that. And then I want to make one of the forks that come off of it. So I'm just going to draw like that. And I want another one down here like that. So this is going to be the antler. And now what I have to do is I have to cut away that, this, that, and that little piece back there. So if yours doesn't exactly match mine, you know what, that is okay, because no two, reindeer antlers are the same either. So it's really not that big of a deal. And I'm just going to start, I'm going to leave both sides together, and I'm just going to start cutting off those scraps. So cut in there, cut in there. Notice I moved my fingers out of the way. Don't cut towards your fingers. All right, so there's that little piece. I'm gonna come up here. Pluck that one out. And then I've got to get this piece out of the middle here. So I'm just gonna kind of turn it. There we go. So if you're like me and you don't want to see those pencil lines once you attach it to the reindeer, now is a good time to erase that stuff before we go any further. So I am going to do that to mine. That way no one knows that I drew it first. Haha. People don't have to know everything, you know what I'm saying? They can just go, oh, look at you. You made this cute reindeer. They don't have to know you drew it first. And since when is that a bad thing anyway? All right, but anyway. So now this is going to be the bottom of the reindeer antlers where they kind of grow from a, kind of like a root. If reindeer antlers were like a tree trunk, okay, this would be the root where they grow from, okay? So I got to cut this part apart, though, because that is what holds them together. So now you can kind of see what I'm talking about. These are my reindeer antlers, and I'm going to bring Mr. Reindeer back over because the antlers are going to go right where this fold is. And I've got a fold here and I've got a fold there, and I'm going to line up those two folds, okay? So before I do that, I'm going to kind of flatten this out a little bit, and I'm also going to flatten out my reindeer antlers because while they're drying, they're going to kind of stick out. But when I take the clip off, I can kind of reshape them back in. But for right now, I just want as much contact as I can get between the antler and the shape of the head. So I'm going to take some glue and I'm going to dab it because they curve this way, so I'm going to put the glue on that side. Put some glue on there. And then the points need to face forward because, you know, here's his face and the points are facing forward. And I am going to, actually, I'm going to set those down and grab one of my clips. I'm going to go ahead and put that on there. So, nope, I'm not actually. I'm just going to put that on there like that. So, there are my antlers while they're drying. Okay. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to look at these ears. And by looking, I can see that the glue is starting to become clear. So that means that the ears are starting to dry. So I'm going to take the clip off this one, and I'm not going to play with this a whole lot. If you play with this, it's going to pop open, and then you're going to have to re-glue your ears, and there you go. So for this, I kind of want my ears in the same place on both sides. So I'm going to kind of look, and with my clothespin, I'm going to decide, okay, well, I'm going to want this ear to go right there, okay? So what I will do is I will put some glue on the bottom of this ear right there, and then I'm going to slide it into that little groove. So I'm going to put that right there. A little more. Helps if it's wet. There we go. So I'm just going to pat that on there, and then I'm just going to kind of open up that clip and slip it in place. And once it's there, I can kind of adjust it, you know, if I need to scooch it over a little bit or whatever. But that clip is going to hold that in place like that, okay? All that glue dries. So I'm going to do the same thing for the other ear. I'm going to go ahead and unclip it, slide that off my marker. I'm going to kind of shape that a little bit. And I'm going to look at where my last ear is. I'm going to kind of line that up a little bit so that they're kind of equally spaced from the antlers. And then take my little scrap and put some glue right there on the bottom. Okay. Like I said, if you don't have clothespins, grab a couple paper clips. That will work well. Binder clips might be a little bit of a challenge with the ears, but they're going to work great for everything else. So press that on there, and I'm going to look at it, and he's a little low, so I'm going to scooch him up just a little bit more, but kind of like that. Let's see, check him from the side. Looks pretty good. So there he is so far, okay? So I've got my antlers, got my ears on, so all this can stay here until it dries, okay? So I'm just gonna, and the nice thing is that if you're using clothespins, it kind of like supports the head while it's drying. So that was kind of like a nice bonus there. So, all right, now we had some scraps at the beginning that we cut off of the reindeer, and this is what I'm gonna use to make the tail, okay? And I like this side because it's pretty smooth. This side I can see there's a little groove in it, so I'm just going to fold it with the groove side in. And their tails are kind of like regular deer tails. They're kind of teardrop shaped, so if I were to want to sketch that out, it's going to be kind of like that. Now notice I didn't cut this apart, okay? I'm going to leave it two-sided like that, because I need this half to put the glue on when I glue it to the reindeer so it doesn't fall off, okay? So, I'm going to turn it like that. I am going to just trim where I drew. okay, leaving a little bit of that fold right there, because that's what keeps the two pieces together. There we go. And again, I'm going to open this up so you can see both halves there. And I'm going to erase that pencil because I don't want to see the pencil. So what's going to happen is this is going to get glued in right there. And his little tail is going to stick up, but not while the glue is drying, because I'm just going to clamp it on there like that. So in order for this to glue, I have to glue this side, and then it goes in there, okay? So I'm going to get out my little scrap of cardboard and put some glue on there. And then where that crease is, because these are his back legs, I'm going to put, oh, did I really just stick that in the glue? Okay. I'm going to stick that right there where that fold is, and then I'm going to fold that over like that. Just kind of pinch it there for a second. Grab my clothespin or paper clip or whatever, and I'm going to make the paper clip or whatever hold that in place while that dries. Because there's only glue on the inside, this little tail won't stick down. Now, if you want the tail to stick down, you don't want it to stick out, you got to put glue on both sides. But I think it's kind of cute if it sticks out. So, all right, there's all those parts. And now the only thing left is the nose. If you don't have a red pom-pom or you don't want a red pom-pom, that is fine. Even right now, just like if you left it like this, everybody who came in and saw this is going to know it's a reindeer. They're going to see the ears, they're going to see the antlers, they're going to see that it's brown, they're going to go, oh, reindeer. But if you have one, if you have a red one or a black one, or if you don't have a pom-pom and you want one, you can take a piece of paper and with something red or black, whatever color you want, you can color the front and back of that little piece of paper, maybe about that size, and then crumple it into a really tiny little ball, okay? And then that is even more recycling, actually, especially if you get a piece of scratch paper. But I'm going to put some glue on this, and he's going to get stuck right there in the bottom, because that's where his nose would be. So for this, I'm just going to scoop my glue over. I'm not going to fool with that little guy there, because I really need some glue to get like soaked up in there. So I am just going to kind of dab him on there. That's not quite enough yet. I really don't want this guy to fall off, so I'm going to kind of slather him on there a little bit. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, and I'm holding it on the dry side. And then right where the fold was, I'm going to use that fold, and I'm just going to press his nose on there. Now, I'm not going to clamp this because I don't want to flatten the nose. I'm just going to hold it for a minute and kind of wiggle it a little bit and let that glue really stick to the cardboard. Now, if yours gets flattened while you're doing this, when it dries, you can kind of fluff it back up, but don't try to fluff it right now, because you're just going to flick it off, and then it's going to fall off, and then it's going to end up covered in glue, and then you're going to be unhappy because you're a mess and it's a mess, and so just leave it alone, okay? Just let it dry, then you can fluff it up. So that is it. Those are the steps to do this cute little recycled reindeer craft. Cute for decorating with the holidays. If you wanted to add to this, you could. When this is dry, if you wanted to color the antlers, you could do that. If you wanted to add hooves and things, you could do that. You could color his tail a little different color. You could do some research to see all the different colors that reindeer actually come in. No, they're not pink and purple, but sometimes they're like gray or more brown or more black. Kind of like how cows come in many colors. Some of the reindeer, their fur is a little different too. So, you could look to see what that looks like. I kind of like mine natural like this, but that is, my artistic choice. You decide for yourself. But I hope you enjoyed this, guys and ladies. And here's my little finished guy. The glue's about dry on that one. He does stand up. His head does, he does balance pretty well. And you could make like a whole little family if you wanted to. So there you go. And I am so glad you took the time to work on this with me. and I will see you later. Bye.